Good.
Perfect. Yes, I think we will go ahead and get started. Especially, I think you all saw in the Zoom link, but maybe not in the schedule, that we will be going through to 9:45. So I do want to give us the full amount of time to talk about this and to interact, and just give us this chance. So, Stacey, am I able to share my screen? It looks like I am. So I'm going to go ahead and let me know when it pops up if you're able to sneak peek, see ahead. Can you see my presentation?
Yep.
And is it just the presentation or is it the notes screen?
No, it's just the one slide.
I think you might be on mute. Sorry. What?
It's just the one slide.
It's the notes slide?
No, it's the main slide.
Cool.
Yeah.
Full screen. Perfect. All righty. So good morning, everyone. As we were saying, as you all were joining, I am super, super honored that you all have been willing to show up on this Saturday morning, regardless of how early you got up or late you stayed up last night. I know after a full day of conference in general, and then adding virtual on top of that is a big ask. And so I'm grateful to you all joining me. And as you might have seen on the program or in the conference notes, this presentation is Wellness for the Weary and finding the calm in your storm. So really what we are going to focus on today is a little bit of mindfulness. My name is Jackie Geiselman. During my 9 to 5, my traditional work schedule, I actually work at the Colorado Community College System. So I love seeing the diversity of students that we have joining us today from all the different colleges, so much representation. It's really wonderful to see so many faces in one place. That's one of the beautiful benefits of this virtual platform, is a little bit of that flexibility to be able to join. But in my free time, and what I joke gives me some sanity after working in finance, that I also am a registered yoga teacher and have a traditional yoga teaching and mindful practice. And so I feel really lucky that I get to merge my two worlds together often and share some of the strategies and tips that I was able to obtain through my yoga teacher training, but then also able to implement during things like this. And so that is the focus for today. Being able to bring that in. And one of the biggest things that I want us to focus in on is, over this last going on a year now, going into different ways of living, this experience is totally new and totally different for all of us. Having the flexibility of being able to join a wonderful large conference with some really great presenters from afar is a benefit, but it's a lot of screen time. I know we were chatting many of you, I'm sure, have families at home, some have kiddos, and I will call the elephant out in the room too. I have a dog here who usually is very quiet and just sleeps on the ground next to me, but we also have a lot of squirrels. So you might hear some excitement going on in the background. And so there are little distractions and little things that come up, whether you are working remotely, working and learning remotely and in person, all while trying to still maintain your day-to-day activities in your day-to-day life, to be a parent, to be a spouse, to be a partner, to be a dog mom, whatever it is. You have so much stuff that's still being thrown at you in this totally new environment. So my goal today is to give you some tips and tricks to figure out those resets, to give yourself a little bit of a mind reset. And we're going to bring in the conference theme of riding the current, finding the calm in your storm, to try and bring that back to the conference as well. So the first thing I'm going to call out is, when people hear yoga and people hear mindfulness, I think a lot of times this is what people have come into mind, is that they picture having, this beautiful yoga practice, to be able to get into these super advanced, crazy poses and to hold them forever, to be a monk meditating on a mountaintop for hours and hours on end. And yes, that is part of mindfulness and part of yoga, but that is not really it. You do not need to be able to hold a crazy full wheel posture to be able to practice mindfulness. Really, what we're going to be focusing on today is moving from anger, frustration, overwhelm, sadness, defeat, feeling some of those really strong emotions that can really bring you down, especially in this new climate. And we're going to be moving into how can we reset our brain? How can we hack our brain to feel joy, to find those moments of happiness, to feel cool, calm, and collected, even in those times as you're sitting at your computer, responding to emails, communicating with one of your teachers, taking a test. All of these different things and tips and tricks that I'm hoping to offer to you are things that we can pull in throughout that experience. So, some of the things to benefit. And I am actually going to give you a little bit of homework at the end of the session today, because it was booked out until 10 o'clock, even though this session will only go to 9:45. I'm actually going to drop a link in the chat towards the end. I'm not going to put it in there quite yet. It's just a 4-minute YouTube. It's a really cool teacher TED Talk of what the impact of stress and chronic stress and what that looks like in our actual physical body. And so just to be aware of what chemically is happening, because that is the coolest thing about mindfulness, is it is not just sitting on a mountaintop meditating. You are actually hacking your chemistry. You are actually changing your brain. You're changing the way that your brain and therefore your body's chemicals, your endorphins, your adrenaline, your different responses are responding to these inputs that we have. So traditionally, our stress response is a good thing. Our stress response is how we survive. When you are in a stressful situation, you hear a loud bang or you see something move when you're out on a hike in the bushes and your body kicks into survival mode of, okay, I'm going to need to fight for my survival. But the thing is your body doesn't recognize the difference behind or between seeing something move in the bushes or a loud bang outside and a disappointing email or a stressful phone call or assessment anxiety when you're taking a test. Our mind sends our body the same exact chemicals. And so some of the tips and tricks that we're going to go over today, some of this finding the calm in your storm, the benefits of this is we will want to decrease that stress response. Again, stress response is a superpower. It really does help you survive. But when we are having that same stress response, when we receive a phone call or are in a stressful situation, we are training our bodies to respond to that in every little instance, in every little situation. So finding that opportunity to decrease how we are responding, to be able to find those moments of joy, to increase focus. That is one of the big things, especially in this new climate, this new environment, where we are staring at a screen so much more than we have historically, where you are trying to find those little bits of input that you can help with that. So finding those opportunities for focus. And then also too, one of the coolest things, again, I was talking about how it's a chemical response. We are talking about metabolic control here. When we are in survival mode, when our body is constantly at a heightened state, we're constantly thinking that we're going into fight mode, it's going to hang on to calories. It's going to hang on to all of those resources that we need to potentially fight for our life. So by even just practicing these mindful strategies, these things that hack our brain, we are training our body to know, okay, I feel this heightened opportunity and I'm going to bring it back down. And our body can process those calories the way that we need them to. And so metabolic control is one of those really interesting things where it's like you use your mind to actually impact how your day-to-day life is. One of the biggest things that I was excited about talking to at this group is it does improve academic success. for all the above reasons, for that decreased stress, for that focus, where you're not in this constant heightened mode, this mode of panic or needing to fight for your life. You don't need to fight for your life while you're taking a test. That is not the goal of these chemicals that our brain is sending out. And so when we have the ability to recognize what's happening, take control over that, hack our brain, we have that ability to actually bring that response down. And then a lot of times you will feel that increased success. And then another thing is neuroplasticity. So neuroplasticity, what that means is your brain chemistry actually changes. The YouTube clip I'm going to send you really goes into the chemical components and the ability to change your brain. But the cool thing about this is the more you practice mindfulness and hacking into that stress response and responding to your own opportunity, your own response, you can actually train your brain that when it begins to feel that heightened level, that it will come down a little bit. And so I do see in a comment, a question that comes up here, especially about how your body responds in a PTSD response or depression. There is a lot of opportunity to discuss this here. And I mean, I will fully identify that I am not a psychiatrist, I am not a psychologist, and that there is so much more to that question and so much more to that topic. But yes, that does have a lot to do with that, of having that heightened state. Individuals who are experiencing PTSD have their body is trained in that stress response, and they were. Vets, survivors, anyone who has that PTSD experience, car accident survivors, there's so many different things that could result in that being a diagnosis. Your brain chemistry has trained your body how to survive. And then when you are no longer in that situation, yes, your brain is already at that state. And I will say that, yes, mindfulness as a strategy, along with all the other things that could be recommended and prescribed and different strategies along with that, could absolutely be helpful. There is a lot that could come into play with that. And so I will totally respect that this is not my lane. There is so much more to that story, but mindfulness in a situation where you have that ability to hack in to your own awareness is one of the strategies. And we're just scratching the surface here. And I'm hoping that that is if that is something of interest, to deep dive into that and potentially pursue a career in that, because it is super, super interesting. And so, thank you for the awesome commentary going on here and the awesome questions as well. And please keep them coming. So some of the things that we are going to try, I'm actually going to back up and talk about this a little bit before we get fully into those strategies, is talking about some actual just environmental strategies that we can practice. As we were discussing earlier in this presentation, or even before the presentation officially started, that there's kiddos at home that you are responsible for, partners, spouses, even if it is just you in your space. It is really, really important for you to get into a mindset, to get into a space where you are in school mode and or work mode and or parent, spouse, partner, being at home mode. And that is just for our own selves. But also it's a really, really great strategy for those individuals who are participating with us in this environment, working from home. If you have children who are doing school from home, or maybe a hybrid situation where they're at school for some of the time and then at home for some of the time, it's really, really important for us to all set boundaries and to have that awareness of when we are in what mode. And so in particular, for those of you who do have partners, spouses, kids at home, a really easy, quick strategy that I do actually recommend, that I have found a lot of success with. The dog doesn't respond as well to this, but my partner does, of when you are in a situation, when you're in work mode, when you're in school mode, when you are in front of your screen trying to get your stuff done, find a space that is designated for this experience, whether it be a corner of your living room that you can designate, this is when I am in school mode. If you do have the benefit of having a desk or an office space at home, or maybe it is when you're sitting at your kitchen table and you're in that mode, I recommend getting a pink sticky note and a green sticky note. And the green sticky note signifies I am working, I am in school mode, I am in work mode, but you're allowed to interrupt me. I am working on, finishing an assignment that I don't need full concentration on, or responding to emails. I can step away from this if you have a question. What the pink sticky note signifies is I am at a point where I need to focus. I need 15 to 30 minutes of uninterrupted focus. And that at that point, please only interrupt me if someone is bleeding or if the house is on fire kind of situation. So that just signifies it's a visual cue to yourself. And it is also a visual cue to those of you in your environment of, give me this 30 minutes. I will let you know when I'm available again, and or I can be interrupted, but please know I'm in work mode. And so that is just a really, really great strategy. Another thing, talking about this neuroplasticity and talking about our metabolic control, one of the biggest things that I always recommend too is keeping, let's see if I can get it in the green screen. Make sure you have a water bottle. Keep something that you can stay hydrated close to you at all times. Drinking water throughout the day, even if you're not a water drinker, there's so many awesome strategies like the little drops you can put in to give it flavor. Hydration is huge. And especially in this stressful environment, period, this new learning environment, this new working environment, this new experience, hydration is going to be one of the best ways to give yourself that ability to function, that ability to actually take all of this in. These mindfulness strategies will not work out as well. They will still work, but they will work better if you're hydrated. And that leads into my final tip and trick is that you should also make sure you're giving yourself regular breaks. So one of the strategies that I personally implement, because I don't have family members that interrupt me on a regular basis, is I do set an alarm on my phone that for every hour I'm going to stand up, I'm going to walk away from screens, that includes cell phones, and go for a walk outside or go for a walk around my house when it's -8 degrees outside and even colder for some of us in some parts of the state, but giving yourself just that opportunity to walk away. And that will give your brain a chance to get out of that stress mode and to get out of that really crazy, like full intensity opportunity. And again, staying hydrated, sometimes that just allows our body to know it needs a break more often anyways, because you need to take comfort breaks. So that is a really good way to keep that in the back of your mind. And so as far as some of those tips and tricks, that is fully what I recommend for that time frame. And so now, let's talk about when our body is actually in stress response. So this is just how we're setting ourselves up for success. We have a workspace, we have interruption cues, we're staying hydrated, and we're taking regular breaks, allowing ourselves then to know, even if we set ourselves up for the best success in our workspace, in our work environment, our learning space, learning environment, stress is still reality. It's still possible that it's going to come into our space and it's going to come into this experience. So how do we get out of that? How do we hack our brain? How do we realize this? So the instances that we're going to be practicing here shortly, and some of the things that we will be going over, is when you get that email that was maybe not the nicest tone, or you're interpreting it as not the nicest tone, or you receive that assessment back or that assignment back, and there's some constructive criticism that you weren't expecting, and you just start to feel maybe your heat increases slightly, maybe your breath shortens, a big indicator of stress response and just in general. And some of us live this way. I lived this way for a very long time, where we breathe from our chest. So our breath stays up in our throat and in our chest area, and it doesn't ever hit our diaphragm fully, that is a big, big indicator to our brain that we are experiencing a stress response, that there's something happening. We're having to conserve energy. We need to conserve those calories. So breath is a big first cue. And another thing is maybe you start getting into that mental situation of having some difficulty in response. And so those are going to be some of the strategies that I am going to be recommending and will be practicing. So to start off here, before I click on to that next slide, we're actually going to try and get a little bit grounded. So if you are in a situation where you are able to have your feet hit the ground, please do so now. So if you have crossed legs, uncross your legs. Even if you have slippers or shoes on, if you're comfortable, by all means, you can do this in slippers or shoes. But if you're comfortable, I have a really great response with actually taking my shoes off and having bare feet on the ground, in your carpet, on the hardwood, on the tile, wherever you are, and just allow yourself to wiggle out your toes, wiggle out your legs, wiggle out your shoulders, whatever you need. I know it's early on, but it's also early on a Saturday after a day of conference. Maybe you just need to dance it out a little bit. And then find a point. Maybe it's at the base of your computer. Try and not look at the screen. Maybe look at the asterisks on the 8 key if you're on a laptop or on a computer, or a little speck on your desk, and just let your vision go a little bit blurry. On the peripherals, let yourself just focus in and get a little bit fuzzy through your vision. You're not focusing in on anything. You're just giving yourself a chance to give your brain a break and give your eyes a break. And here is one of the first strategies that I'm going to recommend. And so to bring in riding the current, we're actually going to be picturing our breath as a wave here. So a lot of different visualization is an opportunity. You can picture light, you can picture a balloon filling up in your chest, but I really like the idea here with the theme of the conference, and in general, one that is just a great strategy, is to picture our breath like the current. It will continually be moving. As long as we are conscious beings on this plane, we have an inhale and an exhale. And it is something that you can take control over. And it is also something that happens automatically. So in the yogic practice, in yoga, this is called your pranayama, your breath energy. Prana is the thing that makes us as humans different than mannequins. It is the thing that creates life. It's the thing that gives us energy. It is the thing that creates movement. And that is why in yoga and so many other practices, Tai Chi, a lot of the Asian practices like karate and taekwondo that start off with breath practice. And that is because it is one way where you can bring in more energy. So find that grounded position, find that place where your feet are pressing the ground. Let your hands just fall where they're comfortable. Maybe that's down at your side. Maybe it's resting on the tops of your legs. Maybe it's resting on your keyboard. And this is something you can do anytime. You're in the middle of an assignment and you're feeling that stress response, that breath getting high into your chest. This is when you're in the middle of an assignment. This practice takes seconds. So it's something that you could even just take a step back, recognize that you have that heightened experience. You're feeling your breath in your chest. You're getting that tightness or butterflies in your tummy, maybe even feeling a little bit of a stomach ache, and allow yourself to sit back. So taking a second, stepping away, find that blurry vision, find that point, maybe your computer logo, that asterisk on the 8, whatever it is, let your vision go blurry and feel a big, deep inhale, like a wave coming in. Let it trace in through your nose. Feel it traveling down through the back of your throat. Now it's fully filling up your lungs, not just the tops of your lungs. Feel the sides of your ribs expand. And now let it go all the way down into your belly. Feel that belly get bigger from that breath. and then exhale it out. Feel that same but opposite. So your belly sucks in, your ribs collapse in over your lungs. You feel your shoulders drop. Then it travels out through the back of your throat and out through your nose. So we're going to practice that breathing. Again, find that blurry vision. Let your hands rest. And we're going to breathe in for the count of 1. Big, deep inhale. And now try and take 2 beats to exhale. So twice as long. Exhale slower, deeper, with more control. We're going to inhale to the count of 3 now. Inhale for 3. Fill up fully for 2. Feel that belly rise. Even take 1 more big sip for 3. And now we're going to exhale for 4. 4. With control for 3. Last 2. Be comfortable with feeling empty for 1. 5 count inhale. Inhale fully for 5. Feel it traveling through the nose, down the back of your throat for 4. Filling up your lungs for 3. All the way into the belly for 2. Now 1 more sip all the way at the top. Fill up completely. And now exhale for the count of 5. So 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. We're going to shorten it slightly. Inhale for the count of 4. 3. Fill up fully. 2. Take that last sip here. 1. And then exhale for 3, 2, 1. Biggest, deepest, sweetest breath yet today. Inhale for 2. Fill up completely for 1. And now big exhale, just 1 count. So that is your breath as a wave. Picturing that breath incoming and outgoing. Exactly. Go ahead, take some shoulder rolls, some head rolls. Sometimes even just checking back in with your brain, with your breath there, it definitely gives you a little bit of a head buzz. Sometimes you feel just refreshed. And so that is when you don't have the opportunity to take a break or walk away, or you're still in that pink sticky note, that work mode, but you need to reset, refocus. Just feel how your body feels a little bit buzzy, a little bit more electrified here. And that is just a great opportunity. Check in with your breath. The next strategy that we're going to be coming in on here is our 5 senses. So that was our breath that we just focused in on. And by all means, I do recommend all these strategies throughout the day. You can do them back to back to back, but this is also a grab bag. It's an opportunity. If one really works well for you and that's something that you're like, wow, that felt great, that is your strategy. Please focus in on that. Or you can plug and play. If there's something that felt good and then it doesn't feel so great, here's other strategies for you. So these are not necessarily something you all have to do all together like we're practicing here today. They're just opportunities for you to check in. And so the second strategy is the 5 senses. It's something that we possibly all have and possibly can all experience. I am happy to provide modifications for those of you who might be hard of hearing or need some visual responses. I can definitely offer some opportunities for that too. I have other strategies, but one of the things that we can do is to bring this focus back in. So again, if that breath strategy was great, it's a good reset, but you still feel that distraction. You still feel like there is still that tension. Your shoulders are up towards your ears. Your breath is still in your chest. This is another opportunity. I find that this really, really works when I have tried my breath strategy and things keep nagging at me. Things keep stressing me out. Throughout the day, I just feel myself getting a little bit more agitated. This reset is one of the things that works out extremely, extremely well. So for this one, keeping our feet grounded on the floor, not crossing our legs, feeling those toes press in. We'll get to that actually here in a little bit. But first of all, rather than taking that blurry vision, we're going to focus in on our surroundings, and we're actually going to recognize the first 5 things that we see. So right off the bat, maybe it's my face speaking to you is number 1. Maybe it's your cup of coffee or your water bottle. Maybe it is your favorite pen that you have sitting next to you on your notepad. Whatever it is, the first 5 things that you notice. Maybe it's a potted plant or a candle that you have in your workspace that makes your space more enjoyable. So finding those first 5 things that you focus in on, count them out in your head. 5 is coffee. 4 is my water bottle, 3 is my laptop, 2 is my notes, 1 is my favorite pen. Whatever it is for you, looking around your space, 5 things that you can see. Now this one takes a little bit of focus. What other than my voice at this moment are 4 things that you can hear? Maybe it's the fan on your computer that's rolling away. Maybe it's the heating and cooling system. Your heat is kicking in, allowing a little rumble. Maybe you have a plane flying overhead. Maybe it's Spotify, as I just saw in the comments. You have some music playing in the background. Maybe it's your kids playing, or the cartoons or TV that's on. What are 4 things, the first 4 things that you can recognize? Maybe it's your pet laying on the ground snoring next to you. Whatever it is, first 4 things that you can hear. A car driving past in the background. So we have our 5 things we see, 4 things that we can hear. Now, 3 things that we can physically sense with our bodies. So 1 I gave you that cue for is you feel your feet pressing down into the earth, down into the ground. You have that sensation. Maybe it's the opportunity of you feel the comfy, cozy clothes that you're able to have on. Benefit of working and learning remotely is sometimes you get to do so in your sweatpants. So maybe it's the fuzzy sweatpants. Maybe it's the sweater you chose. It could even be maybe there's an annoying tag that's giving you the tickles or a little bit of irritation. Just first 3 things you can sense that you can touch. And then 2 things that you can smell. Maybe it's your coffee. I am a big coffee lover. If you haven't gathered that, Saturday morning coffee, one of my favorites. Maybe it's that candle you have on your space. Maybe it's leftovers from breakfast. You can still smell the bacon or the donuts or pancakes. Maybe it's just your space. You recognize, you can hone in on that. And then finally, this last one is more mental. But what is the one thing that you would call your absolute favorite taste right here and right now? And can you actually trigger that? Can you actually pull that sense in as you're sitting here? Maybe it's a really beautiful piece of rich dark chocolate. Maybe now you want some pancakes after I talked about that. Maybe it's a glass of wine later on today, or that sip of really cool, refreshing water. What is that one taste that you can bring into your space? And now, fully being aware of ourselves, we have the 5 things we can see, 4 things we can hear, 3 things we physically feel in our shape and in our body, 2 things that our nose can sense, and that one taste that would just be perfect right now that we are able to recall from memory. It just brings everything back into space. So that one does take a little bit more time, but it allows us to just hone ourselves in on ourselves. It gives us this chance to realize our human experience, that email, that phone call, that assignment, that assessment, whatever it is not defining us. What is defining us is our human experience. And so that human experience is our senses. And so allowing yourself to find those opportunities. And so finally, the last strategy we're going to go over today is the rule of 7. And what this was, this is one of my favorite ones. I use this often. This is one of the things because it does happen more mental. It's less what we do. And so the thought of riding the current, let's imagine that we are on a group sailboat effort. So we are sailing the current right now. So we've practiced our breath coming in and out. We have a sense of where we are in space, our own body. But this is when things actually happen to us that we're not expecting. So the rule of 7 is thinking of times in increments of 7. We have 7 seconds. We have 7 minutes. We have 7 hours, 7 days, 7 weeks, and 7 years. Those are kind of the outputs that we are going to be looking at. I guess we could even throw in 7 decades as well. So a lifetime response as well. So let's think about when we are sailing along and someone calls our name and we turn around and we go to walk that way and we trip over a rope, catch our balance, stumble a little bit, and it startles us. That is a 7-second response of, oh man, I just almost fell down, but I can pull myself back from that. 7 seconds, no big deal. Doesn't matter 7 seconds later. 7-minute response. We are on our sailboat and something happens with the sail. It gets tangled up. And so, oh no, we're stuck in the water. We're not moving anywhere. How can we respond to this tangled sailboat or this tangled sail? So it takes a little bit more time to remedy that situation. So we take that and it's a 7-second response or 7-minute response. Now let's think about the 7-hour response. We had this sail trip planned for a week. We're super excited as a group. We were going to get out of chilly Colorado and go experience this sail in the beautiful ocean. And we get a call that the mast had broken. There was a giant windstorm and the sail mast had actually snapped. And so they are going to need a full day to fix that. That is a 7-hour response. And moving up from there, we've got the 7-day response, a full week. This is something that a lot of us probably experienced at the beginning of the pandemic and of whatever your experience is of you had plans to go back to class. You had plans to take a trip. You had plans to see family. And it took a week long of replanning, setting up Zoom calls, knowing what technology was needed. It was a full 7-week response that you needed to do so. We had to cancel our sail trip. So what does that mean for now? Now, moving up from that, 7 weeks, almost 2 months of a response. We are fully in a 7-week response system. So what all have we had to change and implement? And then there is 7 years, something that happens that's going to impact the next section of your life, making sure you give yourself that amount of time. Maybe it's buying a home, a big move, transitioning to online school. That is going to be a big impact for the moving forward. I think this is redefining the way work is going to be and how school is going to be. We're going to see a lot more online platforms and a lot more remote availability. And so a 7-year response is going to be positive. And then again, 7 decades, looking at a full lifetime response of how are we going to implement these strategies for the rest of our life to really live it fully. So that was our sailboat, our writing the current analogy, but in the real world, 7-second response. You get a phone call. It wasn't a positive situation. You are irritated with the person on the other line. Give yourself 7 seconds to have that reaction and then let it go. Allow yourself to have that heightened, that stress response, but give it 7 seconds. It's a 7-second thing. Or technology. Let's say this did happen actually in the last presentation Stacy saw. My sound went out. Oh no, no one can hear me. No one knows these awesome strategies. Okay, it came back. 7-second stress response, perfect. Sound went out, little bit of panic, and we're all good. 7 seconds, no big deal. 7-minute response is something along the lines of you get some constructive criticism and you have an opportunity to respond in that format. One of your teachers gives you some criticism with a question. You need to respond, but you're feeling that heightened response. Give yourself 7 minutes to take it in, to process it, practice some of our other strategies to get grounded, and then give yourself a time to respond. 7 hours is something that happens in the morning, and you need to take care of it all day long. That is your chance where it's like, okay, I'm giving myself this day to work on it. I'm going to dedicate little bits throughout the day. That is a 7-hour response. A big thing to be aware of, though, is if you have a 7-second incident, you have a phone call or an email that comes up that gives you that initial response, do not give it 7 hours of response. If it is a 7-second incident, if you trip over that rope, Don't be mad about tripping over that rope tomorrow, or even 7 days, a week later, being like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I tripped over that rope. It was a 7-second response. Give yourself time to respond, but make sure it's appropriate. Making new decisions, moving to a different city, or buying a house, or going through these different life changes, that deserves a little bit more than 7 seconds, but allowing yourself that appropriate response time is the really, really important thing. So, well, next time you have an input happen, something comes to your forefront, give yourself a chance here. Step back, practice some breath, and be like, okay, does this deserve 7 seconds, 7 minutes, 7 hours, 7 days, 7 years, whatever it might be? Allow yourself that time to identify it, and then give yourself permission to let it go after that experience. So I see a question comes in. How can you tell if it's a 7-second or 7-hour response? What I recommend in this is, will it matter in 7 seconds or 7 hours, 7 minutes, 7 hours, 7 days? So if it is a phone call or an email that just gave you some feedback that maybe it was like, oh, I didn't realize that wasn't great, but there was no call to action. There's nothing else you had to follow up on. It's just how you're responding to it. That's a 7-second response. Take it in, make yourself better for it, but don't be angry about it 7 minutes later or 7 hours later. If there is a call to action, please don't apologize either for asking questions. I love questions. So as far as a 7-minute response, take a step back and allow yourself to, a lot of times with 7 minutes, 7 seconds, you don't need to follow up with anything. It's just how it's impacting you. 7 minutes, there's probably a response that's needed. You need to respond to that email. You need to respond to that voicemail. You need to get that question answered. So give yourself that 7 minutes of being a little bit stressed, bring it down, give yourself some time to process it, and then answer, or give yourself that opportunity to put it out back to the person who was asking the question or had that call. So 7 minutes of focus. If it is a 7-hour response, it's a project or a request that is going to take you 7 hours. It's going to take a full day of focus. And so what you need to do is, if it is something that deserves that full day, it's a big assignment, it's studying for a test, you need to give yourself permission to give yourself that 7 hours to dedicate to it, because it will impact you tomorrow. It's that full day that, yes, this will matter after that. But then after you take that test, it's taken. You don't need to worry about it again. So that's a 7-hour response. A week-long response is the same way. Will this happened on Monday and it will still matter next Monday? That's something like planning to attend this conference. If there were things that you had to set up, or for myself, setting up this presentation, this was a 7-day response of, I know what I want to talk about, but I'm going to give myself time every single day to make sure I focus in, because that will matter. And I'm seeing a request for graphics. Maybe that's a call to action. That's a 7-day response for me, that I can get that to Stacy to get to you all. Or an app creation. I love this comment. If there's any tech gurus in here, I will, yes, that I would love to see the rule of 7 app. But as far as those things go, it is a personal response. So if something will genuinely matter to you a week later, give it 7 days. But the biggest thing is if it is an in-the-moment response, something gave you a little bit of jolt of stress or irritation, and it's not going to matter in the next moment or in the next day, don't make sure you're not focusing in on that 7 hours later. If you're still angry about something as you're driving home, or as you're turning your laptop off and closing down for the day, does it deserve that focus? Does it deserve that stress? And that is the inner dialogue of having. And so what I'm going to leave you all with here, we are at time, is life is about perspective, and how you look at something. Ultimately, you have to zoom out. So it's your life, your perspective. This is from Whitney Wolfe Herd. I love this quote. I think it's great, because the only thing we really have control over is our experience and how we perceive things. And when we have these opportunities to check in with our breath and our body, that is absolutely an opportunity here. I will say this session has been recorded, and I will be providing the slide deck for anyone who would like it. I do have some strategies here for some desk yoga. If anyone is interested in doing some resets, you can get a sneak peek into my work from home life. Here's my spare bedroom / office / dog environment. So there are some pictures to go along with the names here. I am also placing your homework in the chat currently. If you have a moment here in the next 15-minute break, I definitely encourage you all to take a look at this YouTube video to really experience kind of those chemicals and that the explanation behind how our brain chemistry works with all of this, and allow yourself to take that into action. So again, thank you all so very much. One, for the amazing questions, for the amazing input, the amazing ideas. I love a graphic idea. And yes, as always, too, please feel free to reach out. I will drop my email in the chat as well so that you all can follow up. If you do have any questions, I'm always happy to nerd out about mindfulness and meditation and yoga. So please, by all means, feel free. But thank you all so much. Enjoy the rest of your conference, and right